Today on Beyond 6 Seconds.
With the amount of time we're spending in the workforce today, we need to feel safe. We need to feel like it's a place where we can flourish and we can grow and we can progress personally. We can help others do the same thing, and we can help the organizations we're working for do the same thing.
Welcome to Beyond 6 Seconds, the podcast that goes beyond the 6-second first impression to share the extraordinary stories and achievements of everyday people. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Jake Melton, founder of the Melton Group, LLC. Jake is a keynote speaker and author with extremely valuable insight into the modern workforce. He's a change expert with a current focus on minimalism and simplicity, especially as it relates to organizational effectiveness, business development, and the search for happiness. He helps organizations streamline, improve people processes, find peace, reduce stress, increase organizational effectiveness, and embrace change in a demanding workforce. He helps people minimalize their lives and find greater purpose and fulfillment in their businesses, families, teams, etc. by simplifying and cutting the crap. Jake, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, hey, thank you. Glad to be here. You need to do a commercial for me. Your voice just sounds great when you say that.
Thank you. I'd love to.
Yeah. No, hey, I mean, you guys, there's just, I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm so glad you're on the show today. So happy to have you here. So tell me, how did you get the inspiration to start your own business?
That's a great first question. I'll kind of take you back in time a little bit and try to give you the best explanation I can. I was in college in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the Salt Lake City area. And my wife and I met my second week of school, and we ended up getting married a little over a year later. So when I was in Salt Lake City, there were a lot of tech startups, there were a lot of marketing companies. There was a lot of competition as far as the companies that you wanted to get in and work for. And at that time, I actually wanted to be a copywriter. So I actually had a lot of luck and success getting into awesome copywriting roles. But what I was experiencing was terrible bosses, terrible culture, unethical practices in some of the businesses, and just feeling like I wasn't a person. I was there to help the company make money, but when it came down to it, it wasn't about me. It was about them, and it was about my skill and how it could make them money. And I understand that they want to bring talent in, and obviously you want to help the company grow on, and that's beneficial for both sides. But let me just say, for a couple of years, I was really torn down from some of the leaders that I had, and I was torn down by even some of the coworkers that I was with. And I never, ever had that happen in my life until I started working in my undergraduate degree and really starting my career. And after having so many experiences where either my ambition was higher than the people I was working for, or, just being mistreated and not treated as a human being. Sometimes there were some bosses that were extremely micromanaging, and there were so many things I saw that I said, and it was not if I always wanted to own my own business. I've just always felt that way. And I said, when I own my own business, this is what I want to change, whether I end up having a lot of employees or not. But it's something I want to change in the workforce in general, because with the amount of time we're spending in the workforce today, we need to feel safe. We need to feel like it's a place where we can flourish and we can grow and we can progress personally. We can help others do the same thing, and we can help the organizations we're working for do the same thing. And so after having so many terrible experiences like that, and there were a few times that I was laid off at the companies I was with, which was just like terrible luck. Yeah. It came down to a point where we actually moved here to Dallas. Mm-hmm. I had a job opportunity here. It was one of those, what do you call it? A bait and switch.
Oh, no.
What you call it.
Yeah.
And so things didn't end up working out. And my wife just said, we just moved, halfway over the country or whatever. Yeah. We left our families behind. We've kind of started here with nothing. And, I'll support you because I know you've wanted to do your own thing, and now's the time. And so this was last January, so January 2018. And at the end of that month, I just decided to pull the trigger and start my own business. And I haven't looked back since.
Wow. So it sounds like a lot of your challenges with that negative culture and difficult bosses and just that string of experiences that you had working for other people and working for corporations really informed what you wanted to do in your own business.
Yeah, it certainly did. And it actually made such a big impact on me that I adjusted my entire career path. And I was doing a lot of consulting around communications and marketing and, like I said, copywriting, but I actually ended up mastering and doing some deep studying in organizational psychology. So that's what I mastered in. And during that entire program, I took the practitioner route, knowing that when I was done with the program, I was going to go out and be a consultant and help fix all those terrible experiences that I had in other organizations out there so they didn't have to go through the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense in terms of really understanding and studying what are the best practices and then going out as a practitioner. But how do you make the association between toxicity in culture and poor management and make that shift over to minimalism? So how does minimalism and simplicity help with that?
I love that question. So what I've come to find is, and here, this is an example I'll actually just share with you. And this is actually in my book. This was a client I was helping out in regards to helping them simplify their business and apply minimalism. So this particular company was dealing, and I won't necessarily go into the industry or anything like that, but they were experiencing a high turnover rate. And it was particularly high in their industry, and they were concerned about it. So with my change management background and with my understanding of simplicity and minimalism and my expertise in that, I came in and we really just dove in. We did a lot of stakeholder analyses. We did focus groups. We did surveying just to kind of find out what could be the cause of this, high turnover rate. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of the people that were in that, the ones that were coming in and leaving very soon after, they were in commission-based roles. So they would get their salary, though it was very low. Most of their income was generated from commission opportunity. And we came to find out after going through this whole process so we ended up looking at their meeting structures and found out that a lot of employees were upset that they felt a lot of their time was wasted in meetings that weren't necessary, in communications, whether they were long emails or tons and tons of emails that could be summed up in one email. They felt too much of their time was spent doing those sorts of things. So that was time away from opportunity to earn commission and sell. And so obviously that meant less money for them, and their livelihood, was definitely more at risk. And so what we ended up doing was going through their meeting structures and their planning and trying to find out what we could condense and minimalize so that the effectiveness was there. The employees weren't spending as much time in these meetings or feeling, obligated to get back to emails or phone calls. And over a few months, the turnover rate improved drastically, actually, for this company.
Wow.
And so that was just an example, for instance, of how we just simplified something as basic as the meetings in a company. And it actually made a difference in the human factor of things and made the employees more satisfied and content with their work and improved the culture and kept employees there longer.
That's amazing. I feel like many large companies may still have the expectation in their culture that everything they do has to be complex because they're so large. And, maybe to a certain extent that's true, but I would imagine that, there are plenty of things that do not have to be complicated and complex and time consuming. And, as easy as it sounds to go back to simplicity and minimalism, it's actually quite difficult to step back.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to say that. I actually posted a quote in a video today from Steve Jobs. I'm going to preface this too. Steve Jobs, being the amazing investor and the co-founder of Apple and just stellar entrepreneur, he was very good at applying simplicity. And he said, that's been one of my mantras, focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard, but it's worth it in the end because once you get there, you can move mountains. But I love, how he said exactly that. It's simple, but trying to be simple could be harder than being complex. And what I'm finding, especially with my recent book, is people certainly can get overwhelmed in trying to simplify down and let go of things in their life. It's the letting go. And obviously that the change in habit and the change in mentality, that's very difficult for us as human beings. And I made it very clear in my book that whether you're simplifying things in your family, you're simplifying your business, or you're simplifying just your life in general, that it does need to go one step at a time. And it's not some overnight decision where you can wake up the next morning and just let go of everything that you need to in your life so that you could progress. It certainly takes time and adjustment. But that can, like you said, be emotionally difficult. It can be mentally and physically difficult. So I thought that was a great point you brought up.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's so true that it really is more difficult to think simply and go back to basics. Sometimes it's easier to layer over that level of layer of complexity. And
Which is so ironic.
I know it is. It doesn't seem like it should be that way. It reminds me of a quote by Mark Twain, which says, "If I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter," which probably as a copywriter you appreciate, but it's true. I noticed that in my writing too.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your book, and that is, a relatively recent book that you wrote, and it's called Minimalize to Maximize Your Happiness, Cut the Crap. And I'm interested particularly by the word crap. What is crap as you defined it, and how do we cut it out of our business processes and out of our lives?
Sure. That's an awesome question. So it's funny because as I was working with people in helping them, say, minimalize their lives and simplify, I would use the term cut the crap. Let's just cut the crap and get down to this. Let's just cut the crap, get rid of it. Let's just cut the crap. And so people just kind of started attaching that. And so I ended up making it obviously a subtitle of my book, and it's just stuck. So my personal belief of what minimalism is ridding of anything in your life that is not making you happy or contributing to your forward progression. Anything that is not making you happy or allowing you to progress as a person needs to be let go. Or in other words, that crap, so the negativity, things that are holding you back, things that are keeping you from obtaining your potential, things that are making you depressed, upset, bitter, resentful, any of that. That is the crap as far as the mental and emotional crap. And then obviously there's physical crap as well, which is everything that's piled in your storage unit that you don't use or that you don't need, everything that's in your attic or basement or your garage, anything in your home that's taking up space that's not needed or used, that is all considered crap, in my opinion. That's what I consider crap.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and it's been funny seeing people use this because now they'll use it as a term, just let's cut the crap. And with minimalism, and I cover this in the very first few pages of my book about the misconceptions of minimalism. And the idea that minimalism centers around the physical realm of things is very popular. However, I feel like that's a smaller piece of the puzzle of what minimalism and simplicity can do for somebody. And so I target definitely more the emotional and the mental side of minimalism and how to clear the mental clutter over the physical. I do cover some of that. But for me personally, I've always been a very minimalist person at heart as far as the physical things go. I've never liked having a lot of stuff. I've been very organized. My style is just very minimalistic. But for me, the journey in clearing the mental clutter in my life is what was difficult. So when I was able to improve on that and learn, that's the aspect of minimalism I wanted to share with everybody else.
That's great. So it sounds like this is certainly part of your business, but what inspired you to write this book in particular?
Well, I decided at the end of January, I want to start my own business. I didn't really get heavy into things. I was building my website and trying to figure out what I would do as a speaker and figure out some of my goals, all that. And I really started in April and writing a book, and to be more specific on my goal, a New York Times bestseller, that was my goal. And getting on a TED stage and giving a TED talk, those were my two main goals for the next 5 to 10 years. And being a speaker, I had a lot of speaker friends who said, if you write a book, that will definitely help you in promoting your speaking opportunities, obviously gives you credibility, and it gives you something tangible to sell as a speaker. So I think it was a Friday at the beginning of June. So I told my wife, I'm going to go in, I'm just going to start my book. I have a few ideas. And I left my office at dinner time. So within 4 hours or so, and I came out and I said, my book's done.
Wow.
I had, as far as the whole skeleton and most of the content in my book was done, I spent so much time going through and editing and stuff, but it was done. And I just couldn't believe that I actually had all those ideas out and that it was complete. And so I decided, you know what, I'm not going to let this sit. I'm just going to put it out there. If people like it, awesome. If they don't, then bummer, I'll do it again. But so within a few weeks, I was able to get it self-published the book and get it on Amazon and Kindle. And it's been out just a little over 3 weeks now.
Oh, wow. So it's really brand new. That's awesome.
Really brand new.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations. That's amazing. I know sometimes books can take years to come out. I guess it's all part of the process, but that's amazing that it just flowed right out of you.
Yeah, I figured I had those ideas. I needed to get them down before I lost them or forgot about them. And so I actually next week will be coming out with a workbook edition of my book, and it'll be much thicker and it'll be larger print as well. It'll be on 8.5 by 11 paper, and it'll have all the content from my book, but it'll also have space and questions for reflection and goal setting and lists. And so that will be coming out probably at the end of next week, if not into the next week after. So I'm really excited about that too. I think, that way people can not only ask the questions in their own minds, but they can get it down on paper and they can reflect and get these lists. So it's easier for them to follow and apply to their lives. So anyways, keep an eye out for that. I'm excited for that to come out.
Definitely. And probably by the time this podcast airs, that will probably be out. So we'll definitely put links in the show notes so that people can get copies of the workbook and the book itself.
Awesome. Thank you.
So it sounds like you've got, a really great practice around minimalism and simplicity, and you've got this awesome book that's just come out. And I know your business is relatively new, as well as the book. So I'm interested to learn a little bit more about some of the things that you really overcame to put together your business. I know you mentioned some of the unemployment that you struggled through and some of the bad luck and timing around your employment. But, I'm just curious about some of your biggest challenges that you've faced recently and how they've either impacted or shaped what you're doing in your business today.
Sure. So as you mentioned, yes, unemployment was definitely a big trial for me. And that's also coming along with that our finances, right? And the financial struggle. So starting a business already struggling financially is extremely difficult. And I've literally had people tell me I'm crazy. I have a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And I have people just say, Jake, you're crazy for doing this. Like this, most people don't do that. You probably shouldn't be doing this. But what I've come to find is it has taught me and forced me to learn the principle of resilience. And there have been times where I just wanted to go get another job and just go back to the workforce and let this go. But then I kind of get hit in the head and realize I have put so much work into this. And I know, just knowing myself, if I gave up now, it would be almost impossible for me to get back to this point again. Well, plus I look back at how bad some of my experiences were in the workforce, and that motivates me to keep going so that I can change, the workforce for the people out there today. So that was definitely a trial that I had to overcome, and people still think I'm crazy today, but I don't look back, and I've seen so many chapters turn in such a shorter amount of time than I expected that I honestly feel so blessed, and I've just met so many wonderful people along the way, and I'm further along than I thought I would be. So like I said, I feel very blessed for that. But some other trials that I've dealt with is my Tourette. I actually have Tourette syndrome, and that has affected me since I was a little boy. And I wasn't diagnosed until I was a teenager and had just barely started high school. And growing up and having that, it certainly affected me mentally. Mental health has always just been very close to me because I've suffered through, having Tourette syndrome. So I actually have the motor tics version of Tourette's, not necessarily, I don't really have the verbal side of it. And with that comes a lot of physical pain. It comes with just obviously the concern of what's going on around me and who's watching me and what are people thinking, and just trying to hold back so I'm not having tics in public and I'm not twitching. And so when I started my business, it being a speaking business, some people were, how in the world are you being a speaker and getting up in front of people and twitching, right? And having tics. Now that just seems like, they're just polar opposite. It seems like someone with Tourette's would never want to get up in public and speak in front of audiences. And it's really interesting because there was a comedian, I don't know if you watch America's Got Talent, a comedian this season that's been on, and he has Tourette's. And he's gotten on and he's made it to, I think he's in the semifinal rounds now, but it's been amazing because he spoke up, and I had already shared with the public what I've been going through, but seeing somebody else do it as well just made my heart so warm. And so for me, being a speaker and having what I have was definitely a trial, but it is such an opportunity for me to be able to help others out there. And I want to do what I'm doing so badly that if people don't like me because I have a twitch, then I feel bad for them. Like I'm not going to let that stop me from doing what I love and for being able to get my message out to other people too. So the Tourette's has definitely impacted me. And with that comes other mental health issues. I've suffered from depression. I actually had PTSD. I was actually diagnosed with that after my father passed away. And that was pretty severe for a while. And anxiety. So I've suffered through all of that. And it certainly still goes on. But that's why, especially minimalism and simplicity and focusing around mental health as well, it's just changed my life completely. And I'm glad I've done what I've done and I don't look back at all.
Wow. That's amazing. And just such a testament to your tenacity and resilience that, you knew you wanted to be a public speaker. You had a message that you wanted to get out there. And despite the obstacles that you had in front of you, you still had the courage to go up there and deliver your message. And clearly you're having an impact on people and businesses with what you're sharing. So I think that's wonderful.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. So, building on that a little bit, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, maybe some of the stories you have from working with people or organizations. And if you have a particularly meaningful success story that you've had with a client so far, if you'd like to share that, I'd love to hear that.
Sure. And I actually was just thinking of the one I shared with you earlier about the turnover rate and the retention with that company. I would say that's probably been like the most special so far because it took place over a couple months and I was able to actually see an impact in people's lives, like in the organization, in their seats. In the call center, I was able to actually see a difference there. And it was just so cool. And because I was able to do that, they were all very interested in simplicity in general. And some of the employees were interested in how they could simplify, their agendas every day and their schedules and how they could simplify their emails and simplify their communications. And that was just really fulfilling for me, that experience particularly.
Wow, that's awesome. So what kind of things do you do when you come into a situation like that? How do you identify what needs to be simplified?
Yeah. So as I consult and help people through any of this, I typically guide them through by asking questions. So I don't necessarily tell them you need to do this, but a lot of times they figure out their own answers just by the questions that I ask them. And so if I were to go into an organization that said, we're dealing with this or this or this. With my background in change management, the first step would be to dive in and diagnose what the real issue is. Organizations may say we're having issues with communication. We need to simplify it, or we need to simplify our onboarding or training or whatever it may be. But there is research, both qualitative and quantitative, that needs to be done in order to make sure that really is the issue, because it could not be the issue. And we spend a lot of time trying to fix it where that, isn't what actually needs the attention. So diagnosing is a huge part of that and the discovery phase. And after we do research and we, like I said, do focus groups and we really get the employees engaged in this to find out what really needs to be simplified and cut down or cut out completely. Once we figure that out, then we figure out the ways that we can monitor that and actually prioritize and cut out what needs to be cut out. There was another client that I worked with they were spending quite a bit of money on an outsourced marketing company to do their marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And they were spending a certain amount of money, which was a lot for a small business. And they were getting no return on it. They felt like they were just throwing money away each month, and they were having to communicate with this company way more often than they should have. This marketing company just wasn't keeping up on their side as far as, taking notes and keeping record of this particular business and what was going on with the account. And so we took a look into that and figured out that there was another marketing company that was much cheaper and much more effective, and spoke with, the owner of the business or any other representatives much less. And the process was just much faster and more streamlined. And so this company ended up switching, saving hundreds of dollars a month on a new marketing company. And they started seeing higher results because of that. So, in that case, they recognized already that they were throwing money away to marketing because they could tell by the analytics and the data that the marketing company wasn't working. So we figured out, it had to do with the time that this company was taking from the business I was helping, my client, and then obviously spending money that shouldn't have been spent. And so they were able to cut down on the budget because of that. And anyways, so that was just another example, actually. Once you diagnose it, you figure out how you can fix it, and then you just implement it. Then you come back and you reassess. And then if there's any other issues, then again, you readdress it and you correct it. But the follow-up is very key in that, and the employee engagement too. If the employees are not engaged in a change, transformation, or anything like that, it's going to be much more difficult to see the outcome that you want. But that's typically what I do.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. Really touching on all the different areas of change management. Wow. So looking forward, what kind of goals do you have for your business? Like, where do you want to see it grow and expand to?
So right now, I'm a one-man band. I think it'll be that way for the next few years, especially as I start speaking more often, and especially as, I publish more. But eventually, what I'd love to be doing is me particularly speaking full-time and having a team that goes out and does more of the one-on-one coaching or consulting. Mm-hmm. And I would be able to train some employees up. I don't want a huge company. I would be happy with 10 to 15 employees, and this may be 10, 15 years down the road from now. Mm-hmm. But that's what I hope. That way I can touch on the consulting, coaching, and speaking side. And my passion lies more in the speaking aspect of my business, but I don't want there to be no opportunity for clients to have coaching or consulting, as well, if that's something they wanted. So that's my goal. And then for me personally, like I said, to get on the TED stage and have a New York Times bestseller, mm-hmm. those are my two goals. And whatever I have to do to get those, I'll do it, just for me personally. And I mean, really, when it comes down to it, every day too is making an impact and influencing somebody in their lives, influencing people to embrace change and to find happiness in their life, whether it's cutting crap out, whether it's getting rid of toxic relationships, whether it's quitting the job they're at and finding one that makes them more fulfilled in their life, whatever it may be. If there's one person that I can help every single day, then I can go to bed and dream happy dreams at night.
Fantastic. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your books or your business and the types of services you offer?
LinkedIn, actually, I even refer people to LinkedIn over my website right now, just because I spend so much time on LinkedIn. On my profile, I have all the information anyone would need. My Amazon link to the book. I have a link to my website. I have a few articles I have up on there. And then I also have other links to other podcasts or articles that I've been featured in. So I would connect with me on LinkedIn. And then, if whoever it is sends me a message and lets me know that they heard this podcast specifically, that would be great too. That way I know where this person's coming from or how they heard about me. But my website is www.jakeb.melton.com. And you can contact me there, especially if you want to request a speaker or you want to set up a coaching session with me. You can reach me there. You can reach me on Instagram at _JakeBMelton. Or Facebook at facebook.com/the JB Melton Group.
Okay, perfect. And I'll put those links in the show notes of the podcast so that people can refer to them there too. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Sure. So As we close out, is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know or anything else that they can help or support you with?
You know what? Just if you read the book, please share it. For me right now, I'm doing a lot of word of mouth and organic marketing. And if you get a copy of the book, first thing I'd like you to do is send me a selfie with you holding the book. Every week, I have a social media campaign of all the readers from that previous week. So send me a picture. And also, if you can review it on Amazon as well, that's also really important right now as the book is getting spread out, especially as it's newer on Amazon and Kindle. But, just connect with me and let me know what's going on in your life. And if I can be of help, please reach out. I think that's all I'd look for right now as far as help goes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jake, for being a guest on the show. I really enjoyed hearing about how you've been building your new business and all of the different things you've overcome to really continue to spread your message and help others simplify their lives. So thank you so much for telling your story on the show today. Thanks for listening to Beyond 6 Seconds. Please help us spread the word about this podcast. Share it with a friend, give us a shout out on your social media, or write a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. You can find all of our episodes on our website, www.beyond6seconds.com. Until next time.